This is a video about an article that was written in the Haiti Sun in January 10th, 1954, Sunday. It was written by a pretty prolific author who spent a lot of time in Haiti, Selden, S-E-L-D-E-N, Rodman, and it's called The Great Caiman Hunt, bagging crocodiles in the last and least step in a Haitian crocodile hunt. The hunt, like Caesar's Gaul, is divided into 4 parts. First comes the search for an appropriate weapon. Next, the business of getting to Estang Samutri on the Dominican border before sun rises. Third is the matter of promoting transportation across the lake to the Crocodile Cove in 1 or 2 venerable rowboats which service the areas, about the size of metropolitan New York. Then comes the snaring of the crocs. The account that follows is the first guaranteed guide on how not to accomplish that. The article goes from the first page to page 3. And what it says on page 3, accomplish any of these 4 objectives. 24 hours in which it becomes increasingly hard to distinguish truth from fiction began for my wife and I. Tuesday morning, our friend James DuPont, whom we had last exchanged words with between shell bursts in no man's land during the Battle of Vertarius. That was a reenactment of the Haitian Revolution against France. So they had all kinds of cannons going off and stuff. I remember seeing my dad's slides of all the smoke and all the people in costumes and cannons and stuff. Anyhow, he phoned to say he was back in the capital too, and how soon were we prepared to go caiman hunting? Tomorrow morning, we said inadvertently. And with those ill-chosen words, our troubles began. DuPont, a Chatham, New Jersey manufacturer of plastics, is in the same time an inveterate, impassioned, and sometimes eccentric hunter of big games. Frustrated at the cap, he made up for lost hours by collecting tree snails, giving first aid to Desalines, wounded, and sliding the entire distance from the citadel to Sanssouci Didier in a rainstorm while the others were pretending to look dignified on what passed for horses there. He now urged me not to worry about firearms. He would bring along a baseball bat or disarm a Dominican guard. Instead of listening to him sensibly, I spent the next 6 hours looking for Tony Kneer, K-N-E-E-R, colonizing with Fortune Bogat, getting nowhere with sundry polite but firm officers at the Quartier General and the fraternizing with everybody else in Port-au-Prince who had ever been seen carrying even a water pistol. 15 different people told me what I already knew, that Maurice de Young was no longer with us. A day wore into night, and I was overheard discussing the matter with such unlikely lithogists as photographer Arthur O'Neill and poets Jean Briere and Rosiane Camille. This was at the hospital table of the minister Mauclair Zephyrin and his beautiful wife, Mademoiselle Zephyrин's brother, I discovered, to my surprise, was none other than Cine Leconte. I had initiated only 2 months before into a less hazardous mysteries of bass fishing in Oakland, New Jersey. Somewhere along the way, Dennis Beliando, a man of action, took pity and scribbled on my knee a note of introduction to the commanding officer at Gathier. After that, things began to get really hazy. The only other incident I can remember is distinctly was encountering your reporter at Vaudun ceremony somewhere between Bolosi. Tossing me a handful of 22 shells, he told me that the only weapon that would fit in the safe, to which your reporter no longer possessed the combination. We set out, headlights blazing, at 5 a.m., rocketing into Gathier an hour or so later. We delivered Miss Beland's dispatch to an amiable prisoner on parole. The prisoner in turn delivered it to a non-commissioned officer whose subsequent fate I don't like to think about. For within a half an hour, this efficient gentleman had managed to arouse about everyone in town, including the officer in charge, Lieutenant Edouard. Edouard. To our great relief, Lieutenant Edouard had business to attend to in Parisien, Parisien, and we thus probably escaped just before the wrath of offering him a lift. He had chased us out of town and gone back to bed, we would hardly have blamed him. On the contrary, he phoned ahead to Malipassi before taking off with us, giving orders for our friendly reception there. Corporal Nicholas the soldier in charge of the frontier post, greeted us with correct suspicion upon our arrival. But once he was convinced of our intentions were honorable and indeed laughable for Caimans, he had not been sighted in broad daylight, at least with a strong wind furrowing the waters. For months he had set out to find us a boat. The two seaworthy crafts, Methuselahs, had left hours ago in a search of carbon, but DuPont pointed to a half-sunken, waterlogged hulk in the Mesquite and demanded, "What's the matter with that?" Since the question was too big to answer, all hands started bailing. In a half an hour, we were afloat. Nicholas guarding his bolt-action rifle apprehensively, another soldier sculling us across the lake with startling speed, and three crazy blanks. I sighted the first croc when we'd seen ashore, and creeping single file up the inlet for perhaps 5 minutes. He was floating only with snout and spine exposed about 150 feet out. It had been agreed that DuPont should have the first crack, and it was a good one. The impact of the bullet and the leap of the 6-foot Caiman into the air were simultaneously. But when the water settled, there was no sign of the prey. Nicholas thought that he was done for, but that it might be 3 hours before the body would rise to the surface. We moved on. 15 minutes later, I got a good shot at about the same distance off the shore with approximately the same results. Between these spots and the site of our landing, the water was too shallow to propel the boat. We tried wading, but sunk in the mud up to our knees. We looked about for caimans closer to shore, but found none. Ducks, of which had been plenty. When we arrived, we were at the other end of the lake by now. My wife, who wanted to demonstrate her skill, took the final shot at the large pelican standing on a rock no more than 25 feet in front of us. She shot neatly between the legs, but Mala much later, claimed that she had been aiming at a caiman across the lake that none of the rest of us had ever seen. We started back. Nicholas thought we might have better luck in the deep water. We didn't. But DuPont, resourceful to the end, stripped off his clothes and shouted "live bait" and went overboard. He swam ahead of us the rest of the way back, accompanied by Nicholas on the home stretch. But the Crocs were not tempted. When we came ashore, a big convertible with diplomats on board was observing our antics, and as it started up for the Dominican border, I shouted to the driver, "Give the backs of our hands to you-know-who." "Do you want us to end up you-know-what?" he shouted back, and we thought we detected a note of regret in his voice. There was no regret in any of ours as we jolted along in the opposite direction, back into the country where nobody was afraid to be friendly. The soldiers are gentlemen and sportsmen, and the only predators are crocodiles. And that's the end of that story. I was so happy I did a search on the internet about live bait, James DuPont, Haiti, and it popped up. It's a really, truly amazing that I found this, and so I have some pictures of the article now, and that's what I was reading from. Take care, and I hope you enjoyed my little story. It surely made me feel good. Take care.